Well, I've heard that math translates well to videos, so hopefully they'll be fine with that. Because yeah, I was wondering, it's like how they can't just jump into another map. Yeah, okay, he was like brave and strong. He's powerful. These new words, potens, related to possum and fortis, like fortitude and fortify, stuff like that. That man, here could just be that man, because we need to add man to masculine with Agamemnon and other Greeks. He had come to Troy, right? This was pluperfect, and he waged or had waged. You don't have to repeat had, but it is pluperfect too. That gets there rock at the end. A long and difficult war. Okay, and that would be the direct object there. Remember to stop me at any point that you want a full dictionary entry typed out. If you want to know the declension or the conjugation of a word, the part of speech of a word, or a related word of a word. Setting up post novum on us was what? It was but now after how many years? 9 years. Era. Do you remember era, Alyssa? Era. It's if you're irate. You're not happy. You're not sad either. You're what, Sadie? Yeah, and it's not just anger here. It's acris era. Acris is one of these new third declension adjectives. That means what, Parker? Yeah, it's like a bitter anger. So now after 9 years, bitter anger, we see ayum. That is something that I just introduced to the 1.5 kids for the first time. It's a personal. It's a third person personal pronoun from chapter 11. And what does ayum mean, Tammy? Yeah. Kind of he, but it's objective. Because it's going to be something like bitter anger, if we look at the verb, moved, not he, but him, yeah. So him is the objective form of a masculine third person personal pronoun. I want y'all to know that on a vocabulary basis, not a grammar one, right? Sometimes when you look, like the third person personal pronoun words are up over there, but I feel like you get the feeling when you look at a chart like that, like, oh wow, they expect me to like look at am and be like, okay, it's the accusative singular masculine of a third person personal pronoun. Oh, got it, him. No, that's like way too many steps. That's crazy. Just know that if you see am, eum, kind of second declension style, in terms of the ending, if the stem is just the letter e, and just know that it means him. Whereas eam wouldn't be him, Sadie, but no, like eam. Sometimes the a tends to make us think of a feminine kind of pronoun, Alyssa. Yeah, it'd be her, exactly. Am, him, ayam, her, and they'll be direct objects most likely in the sentences in which they appear. So for, nom is just a conjunction that means for. You would put that on the bottom part of your log. If you don't know nom is for, it's just like a whatever kind of like extra word. Or, okay, this is a crazy sentence. I remember this. What's the subject of this next sentence? Anyone? Scan the whole thing. Look for something that looks nominative. Hope it might look nominative. You guys read children's homework. Anyone? It's buried. Parker? It must be Agamemnon, because even without, I don't have it glossed right now, but, you know, the way we say these guys' names in English, that is almost always their nominative form in Latin, kind of. We call Ovid, even though technically that's an anglicized version of his naming. Like if we turn it into English, it'd be Ovidius, right? Brutus, though, we call him Brutus. Virgil, we call Virgil, which is anglicized, but it's actually Virgilius. But names like Caesar and Cicero and Agamemnon here, their third declension, in the way that we say their names in English, that is the nominative version, where otherwise they would get third declension ending. Okay. Is Adrian here? I don't know if I marked him absent. I was going to make sure he was awake. Andrew's not here. So the only person left who's distracted him. Sarah, what you reading there? Are you just like a reader? Or do you like love to read? Are you one of those like, because some people can wield attention deficit disorder in a cool way. Because sometimes I'll read with TV on. Are you like, can you absorb? I'm not even trying to pick on you necessarily, but like, do you ever like watch TV and like even just play video games?
That's
no.
Me. I can multitask to the point
right.
where like my mom gets so annoyed. Like sometimes I have to, or like I freak out. If I'm not doing more than one thing at once. It's uncomfortable. So weird.
People say that's like a millennial, or I guess it could be like a Gen Z thing, but yeah, like Yeah, I like to play like a handheld video game while watching TV, and it makes boomers and zoomers like think that I'm insane, but I don't know, like not always. I sometimes I wish I could focus on a TV show. Like I want to watch a TV show, but I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds boring for me to put the show on. Like, oh, it's so slow. Like I need something, and that's because the internet jacked up my brain. But anyway, Agamemnon's a subject here. If you can do it, I mean, maybe that's a cool idea. It's like, hey, I read a book and I watched a show, and that's what I spent the last hour doing. So it's like two birds, one stone. But it's like, did you really catch all the plot nuances? Did you really enjoy the soundtracking and the acting, while also absorbing the literary themes of the book you were reading? Maybe not. Maybe not, but maybe. Maybe. It's high octane, right? It's very white knuckle. It's like you're on the interstate. You got the TV blasting. You got the book in front of you. And then maybe you got like Facebook Messenger open too. And it's just like, this is the 21st century, people. And, it's weird. People my age on Twitter, like one of the biggest things they complain about is like addiction to social media and their phones. And every time you see it, it's like, well, get off your phone. Like, so what's the big deal? It's not that hard. But it's like, it's weird to me that people even older than me, like people in their 30s and 40s and 50s, are struggling with like phone addiction. I'm like, how'd that happen to y'all? Y'all went through the whole 80s and 90s with like landlines and beepers. Y'all have no excuse. Like my generation, it started to happen in like middle school and high school for us when like phones became so prevalent. I don't really get. It's like corny to me when old people claim to be addicted to social media. I'm like, really? You grew up in black and white times. Like you're not fooling me. I'm sure you could go back to that kind of unplugged lifestyle if you needed to. Cart and wagon days, what I'm saying. Agamemnon.
Like older people like compare our life to theirs. Like back in my day, I had to go feed the hogs. Like, well, we don't have pigs.
Yeah. Well, now, my last thought before we get back into this thing and do three more sentences. Sorry, Compute 2.5 kids. Is they glorify it now. They're like, oh, I remember the 90s when, like, I talked about this recently. So, like, if you wanted to call someone, you would just use your landline. If they weren't home, you just wouldn't get a hold of them. You could leave a message, but you might not hear back for a whole day. And it didn't mean, like, at least when you're kind of, like, in high school, college age, if your mom or something couldn't get a hold of you, it didn't mean that she was like, oh, are they dead? Like, did something happen? No, it's just like, they're not home. Like, they can't get a hold of me. And hopefully they'll get back to me in a day or something. And if you had a beeper, I guess you would be more beholden to getting back to people. Because you couldn't call people with a beeper, but it'd be like, oh, missed call. Like somebody called me from, let me go get a payphone. Anyway, Agamemnon, Copia. So let's look at this. This would be something useful to add to the middle section on the word log of the verb. It is third conjugation, Copia kepi. The vowel changes from A to E. So not Adrian. Braden, what tense is keperat here? If it's from Copia kepi, and this form has an E, like the one that's showing up just in the third personal principal part and not the first two, is it one of the old present, future, imperfect ones, or is it one of the new perfect ones? What do you think? Present or future? No, because because this E is not, it's an E and not an A, we can rule out the first three tenses we learned, present, future, and imperfect, and we know it's going to be one of the perfect ones, probably perfect or pluperfect since future perfect is so rare. And then because that puts us in the mindset to know it's one of the perfects, and the ERA, Caden, makes us know it's what? Perfect or pluperfect? Caden? Perfect or pluperfect? Yeah, good. So Agamemnon had captured what? Anyone? What did he had captured out loud? The syntax here is obviously very weird. What? Yeah. So captive woman. You're good. That's good of you to notice captive and rightly guess or look at the gloss at it. But we're actually gonna have to hold off on captive for a weird reason. So let's just say woman for now. He captured the woman because she's accusative. All right, it's kind of wacky that the subject's in the questioning, middle of the sentence, and his direct object's at the beginning, but it's Latin. Agamemnon had captured a woman. I'm sorry, no, let's say taken, because if he said captured, it's about to get really redundant. He had taken a woman captive. So actually, maybe, yeah, we just don't want to say captive woman, because then he took a captive woman. So instead, it's like he took a woman captive. That kind of flows a little better. This eti here, ugh, that is a dative, singular, third person personal pronoun. So it'll translate to something like to him, most likely, maybe for him. It'll be to him here. But like how? A woman captive to him? What? That sounds weird. But then we have karam here, which is an adjective that means what? That might be an adjective you might add to the top part. It's not super common, so but if you're hurting for words in the top section of the log, you can add karas, karam. It's an adjective, so make sure it's spelled that way. And no, I didn't put it, but let me type it. And then does anyone know what it means? Nope. It like shows up once in a gosh dang blue moon, so I don't really blame you. But it'll like kind of actually explain to us how to finish translating this. It means like deer, as in, you know. It's weird that dear, you basically only use that in the context of writing a letter. And even then, it's like you're often writing letters to people like coworkers or like professors or even teachers. And it's like, why would you, like, you would never refer to them as dear in real life. So why do we have this weird old school trope of like epistolary novels where it's like, dear so and so, I write to you in this winter of our discontent. So how do we do that? How do we put eti and karam together? Anyone? Don't you know what karas means? It kind of clears it up. He took the woman captive, and the woman happens to be someone who was at karam. Yes, dear. Yeah, like dear to him. It's just kind of, it's like sometimes they're not that hard, and also it's like we don't often see a construction like that. This city here. What is the city? Wait, what's going on here? Like a minimum. What is this? Oh, dear to him. Wait. Y'all have the city on y'all's? No? Oh, what is the city doing? That would mean to himself. He took, so Agamemnon. Oh, that's what threw me off. I got caught up on thinking this was hard because the A care on. I don't think I say I take one dear to him captive. It would mean like to himself, but why do we need to him and? Y'all have the A too?
Mm-hmm.
What did I figure out for this last year? Because I don't remember like just being like, well, can't figure it out. Maybe. Sibi is a third person reflexive pronoun as opposed to a third person personal pronoun. Oh. Agamemnon had captured a captive woman. Oh. How about we say it's redundant? It's still weird, but I was just mentioning. So dative usually indirect objects for us, but I guess this is a dative of purpose. Which I mean, look how redundant this sounds. Like for himself, he took her for himself because he's a freak, right? These are barbaric cavemen who take women and other people captive because they're pirates, essentially. Something you kind of dance around a little bit when you read Odyssey and Iliad in schools is like these dudes are, by modern standards, criminals, sometimes war criminals, and at the very best, they are pirates. I guess sometimes we glorify pirates. But yeah, so like, and let's say for himself, because that's the whole thing with Sui Sibi Say is that they are reflexive of the subject, which is like, it's weird. Sometimes I just want to summon a Latin PhD. Not because I'm not basically a master of Latin myself, but I feel like a Latin PhD, if I teleported them in here, they'd look at this and be like, they would agree with me that it's like, there's no need for eti and Sibi. I think there is a note about it, glossed on the back page. What?
Did you go to school to be a Latin teacher? Like, what did you initially get your degree?
I thought you mentioned this before, but to recap it, my first year I went to graphic design actually. Because I was like, I had no ambitions, and I was like, I don't know about college, but like, yeah, learning in Photoshop would be cool. And graphic design was but like I like visual stuff, but I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's not quite the thing I want to like make money off of. Second year, it was just kind of an identity crisis. I took an English major, just kind of like a general thing, and that's when I got into Renaissance stuff like Shakespeare and John Milton. And there's so much classical allusions and like Latin type like references in that stuff that then I was like, oh, I want to go deeper. I want to be like cooler and more authentic than the other English majors who are basic. And so that's what I was like, let me take Latin. And they forced me to take a language anyway. A lot of, especially humanities courses or majors, will force you to take at least a couple of years of some language. And hopefully a lot of you guys will be able to just pick up Latin real quick and like do really well because you were forced to take Latin for 4 years when you were a kid. And so I had to take Latin anyway. Didn't want to take Spanish anyway, and I got like really into it. So I don't totally know why. And then I double majored in English and Latin. But some of it was an ego thing. I wanted to one up my English major peers by being like, oh, like y'all are just an English major. Like, isn't that the language you grew up speaking? Yeah, I picked up Latin. No big deal. But actually, a lot of other people were one upping me by being like a foreign language major in general and just picking up like 4 or 5 languages. That's the thing you can do. You can go to college and just like get a whole bunch of languages, get Urdu, Pashtun, Farsi. Then you can join the CIA or the FBI or whatever James Bond does. But yeah, so it's a long and winding road. And that's how it goes for a lot of people. So my speech on Tuesday about like, start thinking now about your job. Part of that is me being like, I kind of wish I'd thought a little more intensively about it in high school. I just like really wasn't, for better or for worse. And I got lucky that I ended up in something that I liked anyway. And part of it is me, part of it's almost unnecessary because yeah, you can go to college, have no idea what you're going to do. And like, hopefully within 2 or 3 years, you will start to think, you'll start to zero in on something. And that's like normal and okay. But sometimes it can be nice to start early. And that's the people who graduate in 3 years. Those are the ones who like knew exactly what their major was right off the bat. And they didn't have to do they didn't get any like wasted credits. Like, oh, I took a geology class I didn't need to. I took a women gender studies class I didn't need. No, it's like you can have a very targeted batch of classes every semester. College is so sick. Let's go around. Well, no, okay, I'll wait till the recording's over. I want to hear what y'all currently think your major might be. And again, some of my peers think that's like a bad idea to even like ask a kid, what are you gonna do at this age? But like, it doesn't matter. You can change it a million times before you actually get there. And don't rule out things that you think sound like pipe dreams. If you're like, oh, it'd be like cool to work on a set in Hollywood. It'd be cool to what's another thing that sounds like kind of crazy. Design video games, honestly. The things that almost sound like fake, or at least to me when I was a kid, I was like, people actually do that? Like, oh, real? It's like, yeah, they do. Like, you can set yourself up to like do whatever you want. Some things are really like, if you want to be a book author, it's like, okay, good luck. I guess get an English major and like read as much as possible, and you need to start writing every day now. Because if you love it, then it's probably hopefully something you do all the time. Not all your passions will translate to jobs. Oh my gosh, I'm so preachy. Where does that come from? Itakwe, Achilles, Matrim, Suon, Vocabit. Let's do two more, I promise. And so, we've seen Itakwe a lot lately. And so, and also, Achilles is a subject there. And so, Achilles, Vocabit is what tense? Cora, what tense is Vocabit there? It's from Voco, Vocare, Vocavi. So that V is kind of screaming out to me in a certain tense. Because it's from, I don't have it glossed, but from voco, vocare, vocavi. The V doesn't show up until the third console part, so it must be what here? Keep Luke. What tense is vocabit here? I can tell y'all, some of y'all aren't going to be Latin majors. Wow. Parker. Perfect. Yeah, perfect, right? So I guess it's a little hard because I'm just saying it, but like, yeah, we'll move on from this because I can't talk about the perfect tense anymore. I really can't, guys. We got to have it. 1.5 kids are picking it up, okay? To call. The fact that we can look at this and see, like, it's like definitely not going to be present, future, and perfect. Tell me one of the perfect ones, and this is just go perfect. And so Achilles called not just the mother, but Suam Matram. That's from Sua, Sum, a reflexive, possessive adjective. Parker? His own. If you want, let me gloss that real quick. So he called his own mother, and then like in the sea, Thetis, that's his mom, she audivit am. Let's have a 1.5 kid translate audivit am, since we just talked about am. What did she do? Thetis blanked him. Or I just gave away the one part. Anyone, what is audio, audire, a 1.5 kid maybe? So suum is always going to be his, her, or its own. It depends on the subject is reflecting. So in the sea or in the ocean, Thetis the subject, she audivit am. She what? She blanked am. Sadie? Yeah, that's all. She heard exactly. Right. Sometimes we want to almost work on intuition, basically, and not have to necessarily parse every little detail of a word. So you can look at AM Adivet and hopefully just kind of like be like, Adivet looks kind of perfect tense. It is. AM, Mr. Brownlow just talked about being him for a couple minutes. So, she heard him, and kukurit is from kuro, kurara, kukuri. And so next week I'll remember to gloss everything like crazy. That's what I'm doing now. I'm basically just going to start glossing every single word in every slide all the time, unless it's just like it's such an easy word. Kukuri is to run. And so the tense at that point should be pretty clear once I've spelled out that it's from kuro, kurara, kukuri, and here it is kukurit to be the same tense as Adivet basically. And she blanked add am. Braden or Caden, what do y'all think? She blanked add am. She heard him and she, what do you think? No? Oza? Ran to, not her, but him. Yeah. So we're talking about Achilles, and also EUM is him, EAM is her. Let's do one more. And then okay. Tuos sententious. This is a good time to see that intelligo is this verb that a lot of kids have trouble remembering. That means to understand. Think of like if you have intelligence on something or about something, if you're not talking about CIA context, then you understand it. So intelligo, I understand. Tuos sententios. Anyone out loud? I understand your thoughts. So sententia can literally be sentence, but it can also be like thought or opinion. I understand your thoughts, right? So baby is crying to mommy right now, and mommy is being overly nice, right? She's coddling her fully grown murderous son. I understand your thoughts, or even no, yeah, just your thoughts, my sweet son. Dulcus is a new vocab. I'll probably put Dulcus on the vocab quiz. Probably. If not Dulcus, it'll be one of its other chapter 16 adjective buddies. And then Dixit, she said. So let me put that. And then doesn't this slide, yeah, this is where I started glossing like crazy. All Greeks should hold you in great honor. So she's just like really babying him. They cannot conquer you, in fact. Think of this. If you now flee this war, there will be small glory for you. Titty, there for you. Another dative of purpose, actually. But your life will be long. What is it? It'll be small. Yeah, she's saying if you leave now, you won't have much glory, but you'll live long. But if you stay, there will be glory, but you will lose your life. Mito is just a sin, but mito can be lose or even die specifically. You'll lose your life. A lot of gloss words, so have at those for a second. Let me pull up the 15 to 16 vocabulary real quick. I'm going to probably be done with the video, but I want to look at those words real quick because I can tell y'all exactly which parts of the 15 and 16 vocabs I'll be drawing heavily from, so you know what to expect. And then, yeah. All right, to second period kids. I'm going to stop the video here, but if y'all have extra time, go to Quizlet.com and search chapter 15 and 16 vocab words and flip through those. Or I guess you could do it analog style with the textbook. But goodbye and good luck. I guess there's